Bar questions in political and international law. 2016 bar question. Question: define the archipelagic doctrine of national territory, state its rationale, and explain how it is implemented through the straight baseline method. Answer: archipelagic doctrine of national territory means that the islands and waters of the Philippine archipelago are unified in sovereignty. This doctrine, so described under Article 1 of the Constitution, draws its rationale from the status of the whole archipelago in sovereignty, by which the Philippines, under Part 4 of UNCLOS, the Philippines is defined as an archipelagic state. As such, the national territory is implemented by drawing its straight archipelagic baselines pursuant to Article 47 of the UNCLOS, which prescribes among its main elements, as follows. 1. By joining the outermost points of the outermost islands and drying reefs of the archipelago, including the main islands and an area in which the ratio of the area of the water to the land, including atolls, is between 1:1 and 9:1. 2. Mainly, the length of such baselines shall not exceed 100 nautical lines. 3. The drawing of such baselines shall not depart to any appreciable extent from the general configuration of the archipelago. Question: Section 1 of RA 9522 declared the Kalayaan Island Group and Scarborough Shoal as regimes of islands. Professor Agaton contends that since the law did not enclose said islands, then the Philippines lost its sovereignty and jurisdiction over them. Is his contention correct? Explain. Answer: the contention of the professor is wrong. Regime of islands, a concept provided in Article 121 of the UNCLOS, is a definition of the island as a naturally formed area of land, surrounded by water, which is above water at high tide. This provision differentiates said Kalayaan Island Group from rocks which cannot sustain human habitation of their own. Thus, describing the Kalayaan Island Group as regime of islands has no relevance to acquisition or loss of sovereignty. RA 9552 only has the effect of dividing the area in question into a island and rocks, apparently to make clear for each the maritime zones involved in the definition of island or of rocks. 2015 bar question. Question: a bill was introduced in the House of Representatives in order to implement faithfully the provision of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, to which the Philippines is a signatory. Congressman Pat Rio Tek questioned the constitutionality of the bill on the ground that the provisions of UNCLOS are violative of the provisions of the Constitution defining the Philippine internal waters and territorial sea. Do you agree or not with the said objection? Explain. Answer: the objection of the congressman is not valid. UNCLOS has nothing to do with the acquisition or loss of territory. It is a multilateral treaty regulating sea states and maritime zones, contiguous zones, exclusive economic zones, and continental shelves. Whether referred to as internal waters or archipelagic waters, the Philippines exercises sovereignty over the body of water lying landward of the baselines. Question: describe the following maritime regimes under UNCLOS. A. Territorial sea. B. Contiguous zone. C. Exclusive economic zone. D. Continental shelf. Answer: A. Territorial sea is the 12 nautical miles from the baselines. An archipelagic state may draw straight archipelagic baselines joining the outermost islands and drying reefs of the archipelago. By the drawing of the baselines should not depart to any appreciable extent from the general configuration of the archipelago, save for 3% of the total number of baselines. B. Contiguous zone is a zone contiguous to the territorial sea. The maximum limit is 24 nautical miles from the baselines of the territorial sea. It confers functional jurisdiction to prevent infringement of customs, fiscal, immigration, and sanitary regulations. C. exclusive economic zone extends no farther than 200 nautical miles from the baselines of the territorial sea. The coastal state has sovereign rights for the purpose of exploiting, conserving, and managing the natural resources of the waters superjacent to the seabed and its subsoil, and economic exploitation and exploration, such as the production of energy. D. Continental shelf gives the coastal state rights to explore and exploit the resources within 10 nautical miles of the shelf by operation of law. 2009 bar question. Question: true or false? Answer: true if the statement is true, or false if the statement is false. Explain your answer in not more than 2 sentences. Under the archipelago doctrine, the waters around, between, and connecting the islands of the archipelago form part of the territorial sea of the archipelago state. Answer: false. Under Article 1 of the Constitution, the water around, between, and connecting the islands of Philippines form part of its internal waters, not territorial sea.